Thanks so much for making our tails wag by watching this guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life. Now, here comes another pawsome guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life.
Pause up, pet pals. Welcome to Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life show. I'm your host, Arden Moore. Now, the trick, let me say this again. I believe that every dog has a superpower. The trick is discovering it and encouraging it. Now, our first guest is an elementary school music teacher from New Jersey. He just happens to be also the pet daddy to a superhero of a dog named Cole. Please welcome to our show, Chris Hanna and his canine, Cole the Deaf Dog. I love to have to make it sound like a superhero tone. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you very much for having us.
And for you lucky YouTubers, Chris is, sign language in his dog, Cole. You know, this is no ordinary dog, pet pals. Cole has won the title of the 2022 American Humane Hero Therapy Dog. It's a competition that drew more than 1 million votes. He has more than 90,000 Facebook followers, and he's the poster dog for Cole, the Deaf Dog and Friends Foundation. We got to get right in here, Chris. I mean, you're a busy dude as a music teacher, and go ahead and do a shout out to your school.
Yeah, a shout out to all my Menny's marvelous friends at Dr. Menny's Elementary School in Vineland, New Jersey.
All right, that's cool. Now let's go back in time. I think it was you said April of 2017. Something big happened to you. What happened?
I walked into the South Jersey Regional Animal Shelter, and I went there specifically to meet something that really drew my attention. This little white, dangly-legged, giant-eared American Bulldog Pit Bull mix, but he had the word special needs listed under his name on the shelter's website. And it just so happened that he was born deaf. And I literally made an appointment immediately. I was on my lunch break at school, called in a favor for somebody I know at the shelter. I'm like, I have to meet this dog immediately because I have a deaf nephew. And my nephew and I
Kevin,
are,
right?
Yep, Kevin and I are very close. Kevin has always been a very special kid to me, not just as his uncle, but as a human, because he's such an amazingly compassionate and persevering child. Kevin is now 15 and in high school. He's not my little guy anymore. He's a little man.
He's a man.
But he was the reason that I opened up my heart to Harry Potter, was his name. And we went and met each other for the first time, and then the rest was history.
Wow. And describe Cole to everybody out there that isn't the YouTuber. Cole's beautiful. I love the little spots on the ears.
He is all white with underneath of his undercoat is a boatload of black freckles. But he doesn't have very many freckles. He has two little black spots on the back of his neck that I tell the kids at school that that's where I charge his chargers up at night. That's where his battery gets charged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
good.
but he really is. He's got the eyes of an angel. He really, he's a very expressive dog with his face.
Well, one thing I really like is on the site, and everybody's going to go to ColeTheDeafDog.com, check him out on Facebook and other social media. But you have 3 words, and I want you to talk about that: acceptance, advocacy, and inclusion. What do you mean?
So I originated this program out of what I found to be a need of a different way to teach inclusion of not just special needs kids, but animals, or really just general differences. As an educator, I've taught hundreds and hundreds of special education children. I teach music K through 5, so I'm blessed enough to see the entire school population and have this is my 22nd school year.
Oh my gosh, you do look too young to be a teacher of 22 years.
Well, thank you. So I wanted to find a way. My nephew, Kevin, who I was speaking of earlier, had an older sister, Molly, who was born with Down syndrome. And Molly had a way about her of just anyone that she ever met instantly fell in love with her because she was amazingly honest and just remarkably special in her way of portraying who she was.
Good.
Molly passed away when she was just 12 years old, a little shy of her 13th birthday. And I wanted to find a way to kind of inspire children like her, or inspire the world to understand children like her and her brother, or inspire the children like the hundreds and hundreds that I have taught and I have met over my career. And that's kind of how this whole concept came about. The day after I had met Harry Potter at the shelter, because he wasn't even Cole yet, I had gone to.
It was fake. I mean, the dog's name's Harry Potter. Come on.
Yeah. So I came back the next day and I changed my screensaver on my smartboard to photos of Harry Potter and I. And the kids were. I'm very transparent with my students about things in my life. I try to, I'm a human being. I shop at Walmart and Target like everybody else. So I wanted to. Why are you down there? I wanted to show them pictures of the puppy, and when I did, all of a sudden they started asking these questions about what does special needs mean? What does deafness mean? And it just turned into like conversation after conversation with these kids, and they were literally like opening up their hearts in kind of a magical way about acceptance, and I didn't even know it. And I realized, I'm like, I hadn't even brought this puppy home yet. He was still at the shelter because he had to get neutered. And I'm like, this dog is literally impacting my students immediately. So fast forward about 6 days, and I asked my principal, I said, my puppy's ready to come home. And by then, the whole school knew about him. I said, the puppy's ready to come home. My students actually named him because we had a school-wide vote on.
So how did you get the name Cole?
Cole is from a movie called Mr. Holland's Opus, which is about a music teacher, and the music teacher was born with had a deaf son that was named Cole after John Coltrane. So it was kind of like a perfect fit. So when I explained that story to the students, we did a whole Google vote for him, and it was very, very unanimous. And it's funny because I actually just last night at a program that I was doing saw one of my former students who's now in high school, but was there when one of the classes that had named Harry Potter, and she still brags about, she was part of the class that named him. So it was just really, really special the way that they kind of rallied around this little puppy. So I asked my boss, I said, can I please leave school like 15, 20 minutes early? I get to the shelter before they close at 4. And she said, absolutely, under one condition, that you stop here with the puppy before you go home.
Oh,
so this was literally the first place that Harry Potter or Cole had ever come, was at my school. So I knew there was going to be a job ahead for this dog. So maybe a couple weeks later, the shelter that Cole came from actually did an assembly program here at my school, and they asked if I would speak with Cole. So I brought the puppy into school around all the kids. And I was watching the photos and videos that some of the teachers had taken, and I'm watching his body language. I'm watching the students' body language, and he was so hyper focused on me as a 5.5-month-old puppy that he was not fazed by the 700 people staring at him. And then we gave them all the chance to pet him, and he just reveled in his comfort and body language. And I knew then and there the path was going to start to training him to become a therapy dog. And then it just kind of has spiraled from there.
We're going to find out how Cole, the deaf dog, became Cole's superhero dog after we take this break. So you all know the drill. Sit and stay. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Four-Legged Life Show. I'm your host, Arden Moore. We're talking with Chris Hanna. He's a music teacher at an elementary school in New Jersey, and he's got a super guy with him, and that is Cole the deaf dog. And you have taught Cole sign language. This dog has gone to therapy training, right? So let's leap into that. How did you've got a good connection with this dog who's showing you that a disability isn't really a drawback, right?
Yeah, he literally showed me from the first moment we started training that the disability is not, the lack of hearing is not going to hold him back. That's something I learned from my nephew about. Just because his ears don't work the same as someone else's, it didn't stop him from doing the things that he loves. I noticed the exact same type of mindset with this little puppy. And we began our journey of learning sign language. American Sign Language is difficult for a puppy to learn. So we don't necessarily start with American Sign Language, true American Sign Language. It was more hand signals that became universal and consistent. And then from that point, as he got about a year old, we started transitioning everything into actual sign language because we had the goal of Cole working with deaf education kids.
Well, you do have, I saw on your Facebook page, thank goodness it's only 4 letters, but can you demonstrate signing his name and asking him to speak? Can you do that right now?
Can you get into your
and
chair?
And everybody on YouTube, go to Arden Moore. It's free, the subscription, and check out Cole is going to watch his daddy, Chris, sign his name.
Talk to me. I know you're sitting halfway on my lap and half falling off the chair. Cole. Yes. Oop. There you go. Good. Good. Cole, speak to me. Talk to daddy. Talk to me. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Cole. I mean, that was pretty good. I think it's fitting and perfect that a music teacher has a deaf dog. Come on.
I think it's honestly, we would not have the success with students or with schools or with the program in general if it was any other way. Because it makes it, that whole concept of a disability is not an inability. Yes, it's specifically for Cole's case about hearing, but our program is much broader based about disability awareness. Yes. But it strengthens the concept of a disability is not an inability because he does work in a music room of all places. Yes. So it inspires the children, not just musically, but it inspires them with empathy and compassion, or as we like to say, the acceptance, the advocacy and inclusion. You know.
So how did he go from this cool, fast-growing dog to wearing a cape superhero?
So Cole, when I adopted him,
move over, Marvel. We have Cole on.
he kind of was the super pet before super pets was super pets.
There you go.
So it's kind of a funny story. The shelter we adopted him from every year did a dog of the year contest, and it was 10 dogs that were adopted throughout the year. The dog that raised the most money was deemed the SJRAS dog of the year. And they asked the day we adopted him, they never really had a special needs dog as part of it because they have trouble adopting special needs dogs. So when they asked me to do it, I was like, absolutely, I would love to. So we just kind of started getting creative about ways to raise money. And I was talking with my students one day, and I had this idea because I had bought my nephew a book right before I adopted Cole, and it's called El Defo, and it's about a little girl who loses her hearing when she was very young, and then she turns it into kind of a superpower. Okay. And she wears these magical machines on her ears, and it was a very inspirational book to my nephew. And I remember the day I gave it to him, and he read the book in one afternoon, and he, a 9-year-old to read that big of a book was pretty incredible. So I said to my students, I would like to write a book or a comic book or something about my deaf nephew and my deaf dog as superheroes. And one kid raised their hand and said, I have an idea. And then another kid raised their hand and said, I have an idea. And I stopped back and said, whoa, I have an idea. Tell me what you think. We actually worked with about 200 students over a 2-week period to create the Adventures of Captain Cochlear and Maestro Mutt, which is, they call me Maestro.
It's Captain Captain what?
Cochlear
Okay.
for the
Yep.
hearing aids. And my students at school call me Maestro.
Maestro.
So Maestro Mutt is Cole's superhero name for the comic book. So we worked together, and then I reached out to a local publishing company that does printing, and I asked them if they would donate some copies, and they did. And we sold like 1,000 copies of this comic book to raise money for the shelter.
Good.
And we were able to raise several $1,000s with these comic books. But the comic book literally spiraled everything about this program in motion because the local newspaper did an article. We were on the cover of the newspaper. Next thing you know, USA Today and US News and World Reports picks it up. And we're Googling ourselves, and we're in newspapers all over the country. And I'm like, this is crazy. But then there was one school that not far from us that reached out, and they reached out to the reporter because they had a little boy that was just like my nephew, and he'd just gotten cochlear implants, and he felt very different about himself. And he needed that boost of a superhero. We had never done a school program. We had never considered doing a school program. We went and spoke at the school. We walked in, and the whole vestibule was decorated with photos of Cole. We walked into the all-purpose room where the children were, and they were wearing Cole t-shirts that they had printed and made.
Are you kidding me? Oh, nice.
And the little boy's family was there. And to see the change of visual, like literally watching the visual change in that boy, you could almost like, he was reveling in the confidence, and it was like an aura about him was just, he was becoming himself again. You could literally watch it happening. We spent the day at the school, and then my wife and I sat back, and we got in the car, and we kind of decompressed in the parking lot for a couple minutes. And I said, we looked at each other and said, we have something here. This is different.
Yes, you do.
And as an educator, it was reaching at a different kind of level.
We have about a minute left, which bums me out because I definitely want to have you back. But you help veterans bowl. Cole knows how to bowl. That's hilarious. I want to know how people can find out more about you and Cole. And he is, here's my pun, he's unbelievable.
They're very cool. He is, we have all the social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Cole the Deaf Dog. We have TikTok with the handle of Deaf Cole. And then our biggest one to link everything is colethedeafdog.com. And you can find all of our television appearances on there, and our biography and our mission statements.
And you also have a foundation now.
Yes, we started a year ago. We started the Cole the Deaf Dog and Friends Foundation to help promote our message in as many communities as possible. We spend our entire summer, since we're off as teachers, touring the tri-state area with summer camps and special education and special services schools, veterans homes, and just we call it the kindness tour, and just to promote our message.
Hey, everybody. I am honored to have on our show today Chris Hanna and Cole, the Deaf Dog. When we come back from the break, we're going to learn about therapy pets in general from Annie Peters, and she is the president of Pet Partners. So stay. We'll be right back.